All right, welcome to the Take Your Health Back Now podcast for 2025. Today, we're going to talk about really having the correct perspective for the new year, all these current events that are maybe very negative, scary, and the flip side of that, and how you can keep yourself in the correct perspective, positive mindset, and then all of those foundational things that you should be doing instead of the scary stuff they're pushing.
Right.
That is welcome to 2025 and our current events. I am Jenny Wise, and this is Kendra Duquette. We are, Take Your Health Back Now co-founders. We focus on diet, environment, mindset, movement, really how to remove interference, get rid of those symptoms, and get you back to true health through your lifestyle and your choices.
Yeah. So we wanted to start out the year with what is starting out the year with the kind of the narrative. It's very similar to when the whole COVID thing was rolling out in 2020. And so I think, a lot of people are on edge because that's rolling, just the chatter on the mainstream media. And just locally where I am, there's been a lot of this actually coming out. So we just want to talk about that. It seems to be the what is it? Norovirus? Yeah, norovirus. So my son works for a hospital up in Minnesota, and that's the big one up there that, the hospital's filling up with this norovirus, and they're talking about scary, scary, scary. So norovirus is the flu. I mean,
Right.
it's a, you throw up, diarrhea, that kind of thing. They make it sound scarier than it really has to be. It is literally the flu. The other one that's coming out, of course, is the avian flu. They've been ramping that up, and it, goes down, then it comes up, it's going down. So that's the big one right now. And then HMPV virus is also in the news right now, and that is the one that, is cases in China, and now it's spread to India. And so that one's being pushed out. And then locally, here anyway, there's a lot of, especially children, RSV, influenza, flu. Again, it's winter, it's January. These are regular parts of the
This is
cycle. But they're really
typical.
pushed as scary, scary.
And it has to do with how we live, modern lifestyle. In the winter, we tend to be indoors with all this recycled air. We don't get as much fresh air. We don't get as much airflow. So things are settling, coming in contact with germs more often. And because we're not doing like dirty, sweaty things, I feel like people just don't, their hygiene kind of goes down in the winter. Like you're just not thinking about, just normal soap and water, rinsing, things like this as often. So that's why these things happen. And of course, over the last decade, longer than that, we're seeing increasing instances of people just getting sicker or having more of an, being impacted more by lesser illnesses just because everyone's immune system is just shot. So, it's not that these things are new. It's not that this is like a crazy new happening. It's just that it's affecting people more because they're so unwell. And news is becoming very big on reporting this because it gets views. So it is a moneymaker to talk about and to push. And then there are higher levels of, why this is being pushed and how it creates power and money in all kinds of circles. So you have to be aware of that. And then what you can focus on is how to keep yourself healthy, how to be, it's totally normal to catch these minor things. It is good for your immune system if
Right.
you're
It
healthy.
actually builds your immune system.
Yes. So, just in getting out of that fear and not getting sucked into all of the great big narratives and understanding what's actually going on is hugely important.
Right. And just an example to put in perspective. So we keep hearing about the avian flu, and the other thing with the avian flu, you know, it could be the next pandemic, but it could also really affect our food system. So, you know, that's something to consider because it's cases in wild birds, and then they're talking about chickens, and they've been this whole last year they were killing, culling is what they call it, but really it's murder of chickens and cattle, turkeys, ducks, you know, where if there was a case detected, then they would just kill them all.
Right. Which is even more awful than just our normal terrible food system because they're not even like there's no purpose. They're not being used for anything at that point.
Yeah, it's really awful. But there's been a lot of that. And then, you know, people are talking about egg prices going up, meat prices going up. They're definitely talking about, you know, raw milk is in the news again. Stay away from raw milk. They're targeting pet food, people that feed their pets raw. But what I was going to say is just an example of with the avian flu. So they're talking about, you know, the flu mutating, and with the actual flu to then be transmissible through humans, which sounds scary, scary, scary. And then there was the first human death yesterday in Louisiana. Scary, scary, scary. But first of all, that person had all kinds of comorbidities. So they were a very sick individual to begin with. Their immune system was probably in the tank. They were very sick anyway. But okay, so since 2022, so we're now in 2025, right? So that was roughly 3 years. There have been 67 cases, and all of the cases have been very mild, just mild flu in the United States. But if you think about it, there are 350 million people in the United States, right? So 67 cases in 3 years with 350 million people. That is oh, I didn't write it down.
It's very small.
It was like 0.0000. I think there were 5 or 6 zeros one night.
And the thing is, there may be more cases than that people actually have caught this and dealt with it, but it's not something that is causing such an illness that you would like go, what's wrong with me? And then go get tested. So the people that have come up as cases probably, again, have other significant issues going on. And that's why this was caught in the first place. And it's not really that this version of this virus is that terrible. It's the lifestyle that's killing people.
Right. And also just kind of a secondary issue, these are not wild viruses. I mean, it's been proven that these are man-made viruses. It's that synbio that we're talking about all the time. So they take a wild virus and then they bioengineer it into something else. And so when anytime man messes with something, yeah, maybe it is mutating. Maybe it is.
That's what it does. Just because we engineered it doesn't mean it's going to stop being alive.
Right. And so you know, you have to consider that, but not get scared of that. But again, what's the best thing you can do for yourself is just be as healthy as possible so that your body can deal with it and then move on if you happen to get it. The other thing to consider is the only reason that we know that there were 67 cases was because people were tested. And these tests have been proven in the last 5 years over and over that they are not reliable. They don't work. Even the person that made the PCR test in the first place said they don't work for this, you know, for testing.
Right, this was not their intention, and they're like a hey, if this shows up, then maybe do something else to see if that's really there. It's not super accurate. It's not the end all answer.
Right. So every time that you get sick, you know, just consider not running out and getting tested, because with any kind of testing, we always say this, testing doesn't give you results of any kind. It just gives you some information. A lot of times it's not very accurate information. And that doesn't help anything.
No, even if it is accurate information, that information doesn't solve anything. So it blows my mind. Like most of these, you know, they've got medications now that will reduce, and they've had a lot like Tamiflu, like things like this have been around a long time, even before the pills for COVID have been around. But if you listen to it, it says if you take it within like the first 5 days or the first 3 days, then your symptoms will reduce after that. Your symptoms will reduce after that without it. Like literally, that is the timeline for these
Right.
diseases. Like at day 3 and day 5, that's when you start to turn around. So how do you even know? Like it seems oddly coincidental. And for most of these illnesses, rest, hydration, good food, detox, those are the things that are going to help you. But fear is there, and people are afraid that if they don't go get the thing that's exactly for the thing, then it's going to end terribly for them. So that stress really adds in.
Right. And that stress and that fear, remember, fear always keeps you in the same place. Doesn't help anything, but it ramps up that stress. And anytime you have stress, remember, your body cannot discern between a physical stressor or emotional stressor. So if you're stressed about this and you're worried about it and you're freaking out about it, it's just adding to your total body burden, which is then impacting your immune system in a negative way. So try to keep out of that fear, because most of it is just kind of stirring the pot. If you really step back and think about it, it's not really rational. You can see that it sells. It's everything's a moneymaker. So if they're putting out scary things, like I keep checking the mainstream media just because I want to see what people are watching. And so it's all like scary music in the background if it's a video, and then it's these words like the virus is tracking the steps across, it makes it sound like it's a big scary monster tracking across to get you. It's the words that they use, it's the music that creates this atmosphere. Or if it's you're reading an article, again, it's the words. It's crazy the way they spin it, and it just puts your mind in this fear. So kind of keep that in mind. The other thing, so we talked about the tests. Don't run out and get the test, would be my recommendation for any of these things. It doesn't help. It doesn't help anything except to make it look like the numbers are up.
Right. Like if you are sick, you're probably contagious for a couple of days. So you don't need a test to tell you to stay away from other people.
Right.
Like that's normal. That's why when people get sick, they stay in their room, they're cozy, they're in their bed, like that's what you should do. You should rest, you should take time away. Unfortunately, we got to a point in our society where that was not allowed. Like it doesn't matter if you're sick, you have to go to school, you have to go to work, you can't miss. So that's like a good outcome of this stuff. People are like, stay away.
Right.
No, but you don't need a label in order to know that if you're sick, you could get other people sick.
Or to know you're sick. If you don't feel good, you're sick. You don't feel good. And remember too, the whole word, there were so many interesting words that came out in the last 5 years that were made up words. So like asymptomatic, that means you don't have symptoms. So if you don't have symptoms, you're not sick. Anytime before that, you get sick, when you're sick. So listen to your body. That's the main thing. Listen to your body. Like Jenny said, if you are having symptoms, respiratory, nasal, you're throwing up, rest.
Right. Even if you're just feeling
Starvaflu, or wait, is it the other one? Starvaflu, feed a cold. Anyway,
it's starve of fever.
Oh yeah.
Because your metabolism actually, when you eat, gets warmer, so it can make a fever worse.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, but
because you need extra calories to fight the germs.
Right. But all of those, what we always did prior 5 years ago, that's what you need to be doing. Yeah. The other thing is the mask. So just keep in mind that the mask, first of all, when you breathe out, that is one of our detoxification methods of our body. When you breathe out, toxins are coming out, bacteria is coming out, also carbon dioxide is coming out. all of these things that we don't need are coming out. So when you have a mask on, you're recycling that back in. So your toxins are coming out and going back in. You're
Which
also
is why the idea of a mask makes sense, but most people don't think about that part of it.
right. And I saw a good analogy yesterday. Dr. Hooker said wearing a mask is like trying to catch mosquitoes with a chain link fence. Because these particulates are so small that a mask is not going to hold them in. The other thing, if you're using like the disposable masks or those N95 masks rather than an organic cotton mask, you're also inhaling fibers that you shouldn't be inhaling from the mask, on top of your own toxins and your own, we need oxygen to breathe. And so then your oxygen is limited. You're breathing back in carbon dioxide that we should not be breathing in. So there's so many things that.
So if you don't want to spread your germs by breathing toxins on people, stay home and rest.
Right. Exactly. That's it. It's easy peasy. And then I just wanted to mention too, the word immunocompromised became very popular in the last years. I'm immunocompromised. I have to wear a mask, or, that's usually the word. There's some other words that mean the same thing, but just remember that, there's so many people with autoimmune conditions, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, chronic illness is really the epidemic, right? So anyone that has any of those, yes, your immune system is either overworking or just, tanked.
Not working
Either
out.
way. And you are more susceptible because
Yeah.
you're fighting infections, you're fighting, other things going on in your body. But again, the only way to combat that is just to do all of the foundational work, like we talk about all the time, and build up your immune system. Wearing a mask is just going to take away from that.
It's like a band-aid times 1,000, because it's
Right.
covering something up. It's not fixing anything, and it also has negative impacts on you and your health. So it's not accomplishing anything, and I feel like people, it makes them feel better mentally, like, oh, I'm protecting myself. But really, to protect yourself, you have to do the work. You have to look at your lifestyle. You have to look at what caused you to be in that state to begin with.
Right.
Wearing the mask to not catch new germs is not going to make you better. And that's not how it works. Like, therefore, you not spreading your germs, not you not catching germs.
Right. Exactly. And same with the shots, anytime that, and again, they're about ready to roll out an avian flu shot. And, they've got the seasonal influenza shot, and they've got the RSV shot, and they've got the pneumonia shot, and all the shots. But every time you take that, that's adding to that total body burden. There's all kinds of toxic chemicals in there and heavy metals and who knows what else. Genetically modified ingredients, bioengineered stuff with mRNA we don't even know about. So, all of that is then contributing to that immune compromise. That's just adding to that burden on your body.
And maybe if you are okay with your lifestyle and you're eating crap and you're full of environmental toxins, you're spraying perfume, you're doing all the bad things, and you have all of these issues, maybe that doesn't matter to you. Maybe it's okay because that's what you do in your normal life. And maybe that one little thing in there that might help you is worth it to you. But if you're watching us, that's probably not you.
Right.
You need to really focus on resolutions, not reactions.
Yes. Yeah, that's a big one. So just, don't get caught up in that. Even if this really rolls out, if they really ramp this up, just don't do it for yourself. Do not comply. You do not have to. There has to be choice.
Right. And this, I feel like this isn't even going to be like as big with the compliance or the mandates. I feel like right now, what we have going on in the world is like things are so big and so scary and so crazy the way that they're presenting it, that it makes all of these other things seem less scary or more normal. Like we're normalizing healthcare solutions, I hate to call them that, but that were one time extreme. Like surgery was the extreme option, and now we're like normalizing that as a first line of, that's your first option, just do
Preventative
that.
care.
Because there's all these other like bigger, scarier things now. So
Right.
just don't get caught in that, and look at it, most of what's going on in the world is lifestyle based. If you can focus on your lifestyle, you can be healthy, and then you won't need these extreme solutions to survive the day. And that's what they're basically saying. Oh no, something's wrong. Here's this extreme solution. It's the only way to even survive.
Right. Which is definitely not true. And the fear factor with all this, like Jenny said, everything happening, it's fear, 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 fear. That's always it. But it becomes addictive for a lot of people. It's addictive and it keeps you just caught up in it. And then it keeps your body in fight or flight. And it's just none of it is bad for your health. I mean, none of it is good for your health. I also just wanted to remind you that antibiotics, I think more people know this now, but antibiotics do not work for viruses. And all of these things that, they're talking about in the news, they're all viruses. So going to your doctor and getting antibiotics is not going to help anything either. It won't do anything for viruses. And then really just, I just wanted to say too, that viruses need a live host to replicate. So, if a virus was on my table here, my desk, it would, a couple hours, it would be gone. Or if you think about like even in the raw food, that's not live tissue. The raw food, it can only live so long. So just kind of keep that in mind, because they also make it sound like it can live for months and months, and and you can catch it from so many different things, but if you really step back and think about it, you really can't. Anyway, and then we just wanted to say, the things to do, we already
Yes.
touched on it, that you can do. So washing your hands, don't use the hand sanitizers and all of those surface based, because those are just chemicals and they're just adding to
Right.
this overwhelm of your body. So just soap and water, regular soap and water. That's thing to
30
do.
seconds. Sing
Yeah.
the alphabet. Or the
Right.
Moana song. That's the same amount of time.
There you go. Yeah. So just washing your hands, maybe more often, how they teach you in school, cough into your elbow instead of your.
I heard someone the other day call it their Dracula cape. And I was like, oh, that's funny.
This way. I've never heard that, but that makes sense.
Either.
And actually, it's touching your nose, your nasal cavity more than your mouth.
Your eyeballs.
Right. So think about that. Like if you have like my grandson's going back to school today, so I'm sure within a couple days he's going to come to my house with green snot coming out of his nose. Because that's what happens when they go to school. So you just want to be washing your hands, make sure you're not touching your nose, not touching your eyes, keeping his hands clean, not sanitizing. I saw the school system had put out this like last week that there were so many kids that were sick. And so before they come to school, make sure that you've Lysoled their backpacks inside and out. And, you're keeping sanitized at home and all of this before you send them back to school, which is.
Just wash things.
Yes, exactly. Just do a lot of washing. And then sanitizing at home. Don't use the chemicals because they cause all kinds of problems. You can use steam. Steam is a really good, steam cleaner, hot water. It kills viruses, kills bacteria, cleans really well.
It does clean. It actually cleans too. It gets rid of dirt and grime. Because remember, dirty is different than germy. Like those are two different things.
Right. Exactly. So, kind of keep that in mind, because there's so many products that target, we kill 99.9% of germs, use us when you're sick. But remember, anything that kills also kills you, it kills
Right.
life. Can't
Bad
discern
for your
between,
microbiome, bad for
right,
your immune system. And it literally says 99%. So there is 1% that's going to still live, and that's usually the stronger, worse viruses. So now you've killed off all the nice, happy viruses that help your microbiome, and you're just leaving these big, scary ones left, and you're more susceptible now. So think about what you're doing.
right. And that's another thing to remember, there's so much fear around viruses now and
Yeah.
bacteria, and people are scared of all of that, but you are literally made up of bacteria and viruses. Have
Yes.
more bacteria and viruses in you, on you, than even cells in your body. We live symbiotically with them. It's just like Jenny said, when they get out of balance and you get the bad guys, grow. And that's what happens with antibiotics too. It kills most of the bacteria, but then it leaves the gram negative bacteria, and they're able to proliferate. And so, just kind of keep that in mind too. And a lot of people talk about, I have to build up my immune system. I have to take vitamin D, vitamin C, and zinc. Yeah. So vitamin C can really, quality and sourcing can be a huge difference right there. So try to get, yes, vitamin C is really good. It's antioxidants.
And most people, if you're eating a standard American diet, don't get enough of it.
Right. But if you are eating lots of fruits and vegetables, you're going to be getting a lot of vitamin C. Vitamin D, always the best source is getting outside. Even, okay, it's freezing outside today, but the sun is out.
Yes.
So even if you can go out for a few minutes, go for a little brisk walk, something like that, just get outside. And get your vitamin D that way. That's the very best, of course. And then zinc can be really toxic. That's kind of a bad one because people think they need to take zinc, but some people don't need it. So a good test is you can test by taking liquid zinc, putting it in a spoon and just putting it on your tongue. And if you can taste it, if it tastes very metallic,
You will know when you taste it too.
yeah,
Like,
it
is
tastes
gross.
very metallic, very abrasive to you. That means you have plenty of zinc. You don't need zinc. If you don't
Right.
taste anything and it tastes like water, then you probably do need some zinc.
Right.
So,
Because your body's saying, oh yeah, we want that. And if you have too much, your body's like, oh no, no more.
yeah. And we've had patients, we've seen people that had zinc toxicity. So you can get too much. So just definitely keep that in mind. Pine needles actually have 5 times more vitamin C than even,
But
something.
again, sourcing.
What?
I
Oh,
said
sourcing.
sourcing. Don't just
Yeah.
go to, your community park where they spray stuff all the time. And
Right.
yeah.
Or your Christmas tree that they've sprayed in glyphosate, like
Yeah.
out of the yard, like this lovely white tree out here. I could go get needles. But if you put them in apple cider vinegar, we just keep some in a jar in our refrigerator all the time. Just submerge it in apple cider vinegar. It just makes like a tincture, and you can put it in warm water with honey. That's a really good, for when
Yeah.
you have a cold or you're sick.
Warming, it's like a nice relaxing thing on top of being good for you.
Right, exactly. Detoxing, so maybe you start using some activated charcoal or bentonite clay or something in your green smoothie, just kind of up that. But remember, detoxing is always about lightening your body burden as
Right.
well as assisting your body in, your detoxification method. So there's a lot more that goes into it, but that's
Yeah, if you're super overburdened and you start using a heavier detox support, you might cause more symptoms, and then you'll think you're getting sick from all these crazy things, but really you're just killing off bad things, and you're having detox and die off symptoms. So you got to differentiate.
right. And it does feel the same as if you were sick, if you have the flu. What else did I have here? I just steam clear. Oh, and staying really hydrated. That's something we always hear about, but really making sure you really do stay hydrated
Right.
with water.
Everybody, like very few people will say, I don't drink enough water. Most people say, oh, yes, I drink lots of water. But then if you have them actually track it, they don't drink lots of water.
Right.
They drink what they think without actually like, I don't understand why people do that. They're like, yeah, I drink a lot of water. How much? I don't know, a lot. Like, that's not a quantity, like track it. It's an easy habit to change. You can say, like, this is how much I need in a day for a week or two. Actually track that you're doing it, and then it's a habit.
Right. And water is a good detox as well to help flush everything out. Also breathing, make sure that if you're sick,
Make sure you're breathing.
you're breathing. But, deep breaths and then releasing all of that. Because again, like we said with the mask, that is one of your detoxification methods. You want to get this out. Maybe if you have a respiratory problem, that's a lot harder to do, but you do want to make sure you're getting in plenty of oxygen,
Right. That's
so.
huge. If you have respiratory issues, actually building up those muscles so that you're breathing correctly can improve that. Think about when you're in the hospital or someone's in the hospital. A lot of times they don't let you leave until they know your lung capacity is built back up. So that is clearly something you can measure and change. So look at correct breathing, deep breathing, doing like lion breath breathing when you're sick, not at people. But those things are all really great to support just overall health and detoxing when you're not feeling well.
Yeah, that's a big one. A neti pot, if you're really congested up in your nose,
Yep.
neti pot is good to use. If you never used one before, you just use warm water with salt that you dissolve, and then you goes up one nose and out the other, both sides,
Right.
but it helps to eliminate that mucus buildup and soothe those nasal passages. That's a good one to use.
Same concept with your throat, gargling salt water. If you're having, feeling sore throat or swelling, you get a lot of bacteria in your mouth, and then it can be hard to kind of, if it settles there, to get rid of that. So that salt water gargling rinse is really helpful.
Yeah. And gargling actually helps with the vagus nerve as well.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're in that rest and digest stage instead of, sympathetic stage where you're in emergency response where you can't heal. So it will help settle that down where you are in a place of healing. And then having a diffuser is really good with essential oils. Thieves blend is really good. Oregano, there's a lot of different rosemary, what else? There's a lot of different essential oils that are good.
It is. My daughter right now has like a kind of a sinusy throat thing going on. And that's like the stuff I'm giving her to gargle or at least, get into her throat. She's like, it's brown and it tastes like herbs. Like that's what it is. There is, thieves and garlic and rosemary and oregano in there.
Right. But they're all antiviral. They're really good to use. Coconut oil is antiviral. There's lots of different natural supplementation that you can take. But even though all of these are really great to use while you're sick, taking bone broth, drinking a lot of bone broth, these are good. Do them when you're sick, but also you've got to work on that whole foundational level
Yes.
to really build up your
These are not going to make you healthy. They're just going to help support you if you're feeling under the weather. You really have to do that foundational work if you want to make these, like we said, it's normal to catch things. If you've never been, in contact with it before, then your body knows how to fight it. But to keep those symptoms lower in that time frame that you're sick shorter, which is what everybody's trying to do with all these pills and shots, have your foundational health in place, and then those things happen.
Right. And I think that's pretty much what we had. But the main thing with everything that's rolling out in the media, whether it be all these different viruses, whether it be the scare over here, there's just so much. Stay out of the fear zone. That's the main thing. Keep yourself back from that and more of a neutral observing position. and then really just use your intuition and your critical thinking skills. But try to keep yourself out of that fear, because as soon as you get caught up in the fear, it's like getting caught in the undertow of, in the ocean rather than riding the wave. You're just going to be caught, and then it just adds so much to illness in your body.
Really does. And then your perspective is, oh my gosh, all this scary stuff is right. And then you look for it more and more and more, and you can see how it just grows and grows. So that perspective is the huge thing. New Year's is all about resolutions, which we love that word. Let's resolve things instead of reacting to them. But really, the way to get to a better place is to take your step back, look at the bigger picture, take your perspective of positivity, growth mindset. What do you need to do to get to where you want to be? And even if that's flipping it around, like instead of saying, I don't want to be sick, say, I want to be in a place where I can deal with illness naturally. Like say that, it's that perspective.
Right. I am healthy, and then do the steps you need to do to get there. And then another thing is, we always call it the 3 Ps. So living by the 3 P rule. So the 3 P rule is taking a proactive approach to your health. So that means whether there's all this stuff coming out or whether there's nothing coming out, just take a proactive approach and get yourself as healthy as you can be now. And then you don't have to worry about this. It's living in the moment with intention and doing this now rather than waiting until, oh my God, there's this crazy virus out that's killing everyone. Now I need to quick get healthy. It doesn't work that way.
No.
Just work on getting yourself healthy now. Do what you need to do. What's the other piece? Living by the precautionary principle, which is to assume that, things are not good for you and avoid them.
Yes, unless it's proven that they are healthy. So it's kind of like proactive. Don't just pick up the cheapest food or try the latest trend just because. Actually be proactive, be precautionary, look at ingredients, look at sourcing. Don't wait for some other organization or person to tell you that it's not safe. Just assume if it's something you don't know, that it's not good for you until you've done the research and you know that it is.
Right. And then just protecting yourself. And that's how you protect yourself, by taking a proactive approach and living by the precautionary principle. And then that's really your best way to be as healthy as possible. And you can deal with everything that's coming at us.
Yes.
Or not coming at us. That helps, because I know we've just heard a lot of people around us getting caught up in this. So we just wanted to touch on it again. And it's kind of like what we were talking about 5 years ago. It's just coming up again. So it's just a reminder of where.
And that's, your brain is there to keep you healthy. So if it is just seeing scary, this thing's going to attack me, this thing's going to attack me, this is dangerous, and you're not giving it a goal or direction, then those are the things it'll focus on. Because, if you're living in a forest by yourself, it's looking out for all of those things that might, get you. But that's not how we live anymore. Our brain still looks out for those things. So we have to give it positive, at least goals. They don't all have to be like, super great positive. They're just things to look for, so that you are not caught up in that. Like, you have to be aware of it. Otherwise, that's just where things go.
Right. And stay away as much as you possibly can from the news. Because that is just stirring the pot. The person that's living out in the forest, like Jenny just said, would have no idea any of this is going on. They wouldn't be scared. They wouldn't know.
No, they would actually be looking for things like bears and cliffs.
Right. But getting sick, if they got sick, they would do what we just talked about, and then they would get on with it. That's just what you do. Think about if your dog gets sick or your cat gets sick, what do? They rest. They crawl under the couch and they don't eat much. They may not even drink much and they rest, rest, rest. That's what they do. And then they will come out and they'll be all better and they'll start eating again and drinking. And I mean, that's just what we as mammals, that's what we should be doing. So just very simple when you break it down. So just hopefully this helps keep you out of the spot. And then if you feel like you're immunocompromised, if you feel like you're having symptoms, if you feel like if you
Need
know,
some support on your journey.
right. And of course you can always come work with us because that's what we do.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can always reach out, but definitely take a proactive approach now.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Like we said, this is the beginning of our 2025 podcast series. We will be live in our Facebook group on Tuesdays at around 1 o'clock weekly. So if you are not in there and you want to watch us live, feel free to come over, join the group. We'll let you in. You can do that. We do interact if anyone has comments during the live podcast. Otherwise, you can always catch us on replay if that's where you are now. We are on YouTube with video. We're on all of the podcast platforms with audio. And you can always like and share. We want this to be out there to as many people as possible. That's really our big mission in life, is to spread this awareness. And then there are definitely ways to work with us. We have one-on-one practice. We have membership level resources. So if you're interested in making that big change, just reach out.
All right. And then we'll see you next week.
Yeah.